A couple countries just passed very pro-crypto legislation while the Clarity Act is on base. We have Bitcoin passing 66,000. We have a major Bitcoiner stepping down from his company, someone really well known, I'd say maybe second or third most well known behind Michael Saylor. And we also have BlackRock. I think a lot of people are forgetting how profitable the Bitcoin ETFs were for the major banks. And I think we have to revisit that. If you don't mind, though, hit subscribe so you can see future videos just like this. The market is looking green. If you do want to trade crypto, I will be looking at some technicals today. If you do want to trade crypto, though, there are links underneath the video. You can check out Ubit. Right now, we have a special bonus where if you hit a couple thresholds, you can get $50 a week, and you get some extra bonuses too when you use my link. There's a link to BitFi, which BitFi just has the best rewards by far of every exchange that I've ever seen. Constantly giving back to anyone that has ever signed up under my link. Just depending on how much you trade, you can get up to $10,000 basically a month. We've run it every single month for 15 months, 16 months in a row now. You can get up to $10,000 worth of Bitcoin just for trading on the platform. And there's a link to BTCC as well, where you can get 10% first time deposit bonus, lower trading fees, and up to $10,000 per user. So check these out. They're in the link tree underneath the video. You can trade stocks on those platforms as well, which I have been doing a bit. Now, let's just take a look at the pre-market. We'll turn to Bitcoin in a second, but the market's looking pretty green. Nasdaq up 1.33%. AMD was really leading the way. Last time I looked, it was up 4%. S&P 500 slightly green. Dow Jones slightly green. Stock market looks great, but Bitcoin looks even better, I'd say, relatively up 3% to 66,600. Now, we know a lot of banks have been crushing earnings, which is a good indication to the future. Charles Schwab announced their earnings today. They beat EPS by 5%, revenue by 2%. EPS is up 42% year over year, revenue up 21%. They're up 2% in the pre-market. A lot of banks just crushing earnings, which is a very good sign for the economy. Now, what's causing the broader market to go up today? There's not too much. We have people feeling a little bit more comfortable about semiconductors, realizing a couple days ago, right, last Friday, I think it was, there was this worry that maybe compute isn't as constrained. There's some Chinese open model that is drawing market share, and people are thinking that Anthropic and ChatGPT are gonna die, and that there's gonna be less compute needed. But no, I mean, right now, if any individual company stops using compute, that makes everyone else want more compute because they want to steal those users, right? So I think people are starting to realize that there's still a lot of demand, right? And of course, we do have a big earnings week. We have Alphabet, Google tomorrow, Tesla, IBM. So we'll have a better indication as to what is happening in the AI world. But yeah, be on the lookout for that. Now let's move over to Bitcoin. Bitcoin still is moving between the 200-week simple moving average and the bear market resistance band. The 200-week simple moving average is typically a very good point to be buying Bitcoin. In the past, this has kind of been where we bottomed out. Last cycle, we spent some time below it, a couple months. We've already moved below it this cycle. You can see we wicked below it for maybe a week or so. But then the bear market resistance band, we stay below it during the bear market, move above it during the bull market. Obviously, this is a point of resistance. It's in right around 72,000, which is kind of a key psychological level. We got rejected by 74,000 back in April. I believe it was March of 2024. We held it as support back in 2025. And yeah, this could be a significant point of resistance again if we even get up to 74,000. Would not be surprised if we got rejected before that. But Benjamin Cohen thinks that we'll still see a strong July. Keep in mind, typically we bottom October, November. So be on the lookout for that. Obviously, if you do want to trade that, you can check out those links underneath the video. There are some fundamental things that are happening, which you might not hear about unless you're like deep on Twitter. Japan just passed its crypto market structure law on July 15. FIEA reform is done. They basically cut taxes from 55% to 20%. 105 tokens were reclassified as financial instruments, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP among them. We're still waiting on the Clarity Act, though. So they're still discussing it. We've been waiting for it for a year. This was something that a lot of people were excited about during the bull market, thinking that this could send us even higher. But like a lot of things, at the end of the bull market, it doesn't really pan out. It gets pushed off, and then we start the bear market, and then we just have to continue waiting on them, which is pretty frustrating. I do think this could kind of mark the bottom, though. A lot of people are pointing to that there's an August recess in a few weeks, so we could see, another delay on it if it doesn't get passed soon. Russia also passed law that regulates the circulation of digital currencies and digital rights in Russia for the first time. Now, Russia is one of these places that's somewhat similar to China, where like things flip very quickly, where they'll say this and then like a week or two from now we'll hear that Bitcoin's banned or something. It's not quite as bad as China, but I feel like they flip flop a lot. At least the news reports a lot of different things. So hopefully people in Russia can legally buy, hold, trade Bitcoin, that kind of thing, and not have to pay enormous amounts of taxes on it. But we'll see. So 3 weeks, the U.S. Senate leaves for August recess again. I think we just have to wait for it. Now, I think a lot of people also forget that it's not just like you and me that want Bitcoin laws passed, that want pro-crypto legislation, that want Bitcoin to return. A lot of the major banks want Bitcoin to do well. I mean, in the last bull market, a lot of big banks started to bet more heavily on Bitcoin, spending ad dollars, spending time, and pushing to clients these Bitcoin funds, right? IBIT, FBTC. A lot of these grew very quickly. And I remember being in airports where I was getting ads relentlessly for some of these products. Like on every stand-up kiosk, it seemed like every map of the airport, they were running ads about these Bitcoin ETFs. And we have to remember how successful these things were and how much money this made these companies. BlackRock hit 100 billion in AUM last October. They had 100 billion in assets. They're charging a 0.25% fee, so they're making $250 million a year. This was more than they were making from any other ETF. This was more than Vanguard was making from their crown jewel, their VOO ETF, which has the most assets under management of any ETF in the world. Because remember, they only have a 0.03% fee on VOO. So with 8 times the fee, 0.25% on IBIT, this was a cash-making machine for BlackRock. So this also gave them some goodwill because a lot of investors made a lot of money, at least like early investors, some of their wealthier investors that got in when they're kind of pushed towards it by BlackRock. They made a lot of money and they're still up a significant amount. They had a private fund that opened when Bitcoin was 20 or 25,000. And then they went live when Bitcoin with IBIT when Bitcoin was 39,000 to 42,000. So nearly every early investor still is up on IBIT. But if you bought during the deeper parts of the bull market, maybe you're not. So I think you have to remember, these big banks want Bitcoin to return just like you and me. They want these crown jewels, these big money makers, to double and triple in AUM. And I think they're gonna push it very hard at the beginning of the bull market because they can make investors a lot of money. They realize the timing. They can start shifting attention and bullishness into Bitcoin after we typically bottom. If you've noticed, Larry Fink is not nearly talking about Bitcoin as much as he used to. I think one of the reasons is there's not much of a payoff, right? If you talk about it in the bear market before we typically bottom, like you're probably not going to change the entire market cycle. So you might as well just wait and then just jump on the bandwagon at the beginning parts of the bull market. And let's say they get $200 billion in AUM this cycle, which I think is going to be easier than getting 100 billion last cycle, because Bitcoin's going to be higher in price and more people will feel more comfortable with it. It's seeped into more finance And also, just like with the Clarity Act, it'll be easier to push it to large institutions and to talk about it on CNBC and be super bullish. So let's say they get up to 200 billion. Okay, that's half a billion dollars in fees a year. Keep in mind they can put it in other portfolios, and then if it brings up the AUM of those other portfolios because it outperforms, it can give them like double fees on that as well. So I think you have to realize that that's coming, right? We have a big tailwind when we typically bottom. We have a big tailwind in all these major banks pushing it. They're also hitting record high like revenue and EPS, and I think they're going to want to continue that. And this is going to be a very easy thing to push. Let me know your thoughts on all this underneath the video. Let me know what you think about the ETFs and if they'll really explode this cycle. I mean, they did extremely well last cycle, but it was the first couple of years that people had exposure to them. And a lot of people couldn't get exposure yet because it hadn't passed compliance with whatever company they work with. So a lot of companies cream and sell it. Morgan Stanley, I think, is the one recently that just started an ETF years after the other ones were approved, and I don't think they were given authorization to sell any other ETFs. I know people at other large financial institutions, right, the largest financial institution for financial advisors in the world, and they're not allowed to sell Bitcoin ETFs unless someone brings it to them, and even then they have to be very careful what they say. So things will change over time. Man, I almost forgot the major Bitcoiner that is leaving. Let me know if you've made it this far in the video by telling me what you're drinking. I have a coffee here and a water. But Jack Mallers just said that he's leaving 21 Capital. I won't play this whole video because it's 4.5 minutes long. But basically, he just said that, they created 21 Capital to buy Bitcoin and to buy cash flowing Bitcoin businesses. He and the board had disagreements on how to go about that. So he's going to step away. He's going to focus on Strike. I'd say he's one of the most well-known Bitcoiners out there. He speaks at every Bitcoin conference, very outspoken, very young guy, lots of energy. And yeah, just leaving 21 Capital. Now, 21 Capital is down a little bit. Last time I checked. Okay, it was down only 2% in the pre-market, now down 10%. A lot of these treasury companies are doing very poorly during the bear market. So I'm not surprised to see it down on this news. If you look over the last 1 year, it's down about 84%. Let me know if you got stuck in any of these treasury companies. So many of them were just so highly valued. I remember making warning videos. There were some that were interesting. Like if you could do this well, you could buy cash flowing Bitcoin businesses that actually make sense, that are resilient. That'd be awesome. But the fact is, a lot of them just are so complicated and or just unprofitable that they don't make sense. Especially when you can just buy, like you can either just go buy Bitcoin or you can buy good cash flowing businesses that don't have the Bitcoin markup. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll see y'all soon. Just a reminder, this is not financial advice. This is not legal advice. Do your own research. I'm never going to reach out to you either in the comment section or through any other means to try to get you to invest in something that I'm investing in or to send me crypto. Some links underneath the video are affiliate links. I may earn a commission, but this is at no extra cost to you. Of course, do your own due diligence.